It was a quiet Sunday morning in Maplewood Estates, one of those overly polished neighborhoods where the lawns looked cloned, the mailboxes matched, and the residents held more grudges than friendships. The kind of place ruled by an iron-fisted HOA, the Homeowners Association, that cared more about community image than actual community. My name's Jake Dalton, firefighter for Station 47. 10 years in the department, 2 medals of bravery, and a reputation for never losing my cool, except that one day when I met Karen Wallace, the self-appointed queen of Maplewood Estates. It started with a routine call, a small fire alert from the edge of the neighborhood. Nothing dramatic at first. I was driving Engine 47, my red beast of a truck, through the neatly paved streets, sirens wailing. The GPS showed we were 3 blocks from the location, and I could already smell faint smoke in the air. Adrenaline pumped through my veins, that instinctive rush every firefighter knows when seconds matter. Then I saw her. A silver Lexus parked diagonally across the narrow residential road, blocking almost the entire lane. And standing right in front of it, arms crossed, sunglasses on, phone in hand, was her. Mid-50s, blonde hair, a floral blouse, and that unmistakable "don't you dare" expression. She didn't even flinch at the siren. I hit the horn once, long and hard. She didn't move. We've got an emergency," I shouted through the truck window. "We need to get through, move your car now." Karen turned her head slowly, like a villain in a slow-motion reveal. "You can't drive here," she yelled back, her voice sharp and full of authority she clearly didn't have. "This is private property. HOA rules state that emergency vehicles must use the main access road." I blinked. Was she serious? The house on fire was 2 houses down, and she was arguing about rules. There's a fire up ahead, someone's in danger." I shouted again, stepping halfway out of the truck. The smoke was visible now, curling above the rooftops like a warning. "You need to move, now." She didn't budge. Instead, she raised her phone and started recording. "You can't threaten me. I'm reporting this to the HOA president. You people think you can just drive anywhere you want. This is harassment." Behind me, my crew was shouting, "Jake, we're losing time." I clenched my jaw. Seconds were slipping away. Every second in a fire is a gamble between life and death. And here I was, arguing with a woman obsessed with neighborhood bylaws. I said, trying to keep my composure. "If you don't move that car in the next 10 seconds, I'm pushing it out of the way with the truck." She gasped like I'd just confessed to a crime. "You wouldn't dare." I climbed back into the cab, flicked on the loudspeaker, and said evenly, 10, 9, 8. She finally jumped into her car, muttering curses, and reversed just enough for us to squeeze through. I gunned the engine forward, the truck's tires screeching as we turned the corner. That's when the world tilted. The house that was burning, its white siding already blackened, flames clawing at the roof, was hers. Karen Wallace's house. I stopped the truck so abruptly my seatbelt locked. She stumbled out of her car behind us, staring at the smoke curling from her own front porch, disbelief flooding her face. My house is on fire," she screamed, dropping her phone. I almost couldn't process it. Karma had moved faster than the fire itself. We jumped into action, hoses unrolled, axes ready, adrenaline drowning out everything else. My crew fanned out like a well-oiled machine, crashing through the front door to search for anyone inside. Flames were licking the hallway, the smoke thick and choking. "Any occupants?" I yelled to her as we prepared to enter. "My husband, he's inside." "He was in the garage," she cried, her earlier arrogance gone, replaced by raw panic. No hesitation. I grabbed my oxygen mask, nodded to my partner Mason, and charged into the inferno. Inside was chaos, heat so fierce it seared the skin through the suit, smoke so dense it turned the world black. The garage door had partially collapsed, trapping a man under a beam. We pulled him free, dragging him out just before the roof gave way. Outside, Karen was sobbing uncontrollably, clutching her husband's hand as the paramedics took over. She looked up at me, eyes red, face streaked with tears and soot, and whispered, I didn't know. I'm sorry. For a second, I saw not the tyrant HOA Karen, but a terrified human being who'd just learned that life doesn't care about control. That rules mean nothing when fire's at your door. I nodded silently, too exhausted to speak. The house behind her groaned and collapsed inward, sparks flying into the morning sky like glowing judgment. That day, Maplewood Estates learned something the hard way. Karma doesn't read HOA rulebooks. The morning after the fire, Maplewood Estates didn't look like the picture-perfect suburb anymore. Yellow caution tape fluttered in the breeze, the smell of burnt wood hung in the air, and black ash stained the white picket fences. The once proud neighborhood had a scar now, a smoking reminder that perfection was an illusion. I was back on duty at Station 47, cleaning gear that still reeked of smoke. My captain, Ramirez, gave me a nod as he walked past. "You handled yourself well yesterday, Jake," he said. "Could have gone bad if you hadn't pushed through." I wanted to feel proud, but all I could picture was Karen's face, the instant regret when she realized it was her house. The irony was almost cruel. She'd blocked my truck trying to enforce HOA rules, and in doing so, nearly cost her husband his life. By noon, the story was everywhere. Someone, probably one of the neighbors, had uploaded a video of the whole confrontation to social media. The clip started with me shouting for her to move and ended with her standing in front of her burning home, screaming. The caption read, "HOA Karen blocks fire truck. Then karma strikes." Within hours, it went viral. Tens of thousands of views, comments flooding in like wildfire. Instant justice. She got what she deserved. This is peak karma. But behind every viral moment, there's a real person. That evening, while checking equipment, I got a call from the police department. They told me Karen wanted to speak with me, she'd come by the station. I wasn't sure if it was to yell at me, sue me, or thank me. When she arrived, she looked nothing like the woman I'd met that morning before. Her perfectly styled hair was tied back messily, her face pale, eyes swollen from crying. She held a small box of cookies, an awkward peace offering that seemed out of place. "Firefighter Dalton," she said softly. "Yes, I replied, standing a little uncertainly. She looked down for a moment, then whispered, "I'm sorry. For everything." There was a pause heavy enough to crush the air between us. She continued, voice trembling. "I didn't realize how serious it was. I thought that we were just another truck breaking HOA rules." I finished, half smiling, half exhausted. Her lip quivered. "I've lived by rules my whole life. I thought they kept things safe, orderly. But yesterday," she looked away, blinking back tears. "I almost killed the one person I loved most because I couldn't see past a signpost." I didn't know what to say. I'd seen people lose homes before, but rarely their sense of self. Karen wasn't just dealing with the fire, she was facing the collapse of her entire identity, the HOA enforcer, the rule keeper, the woman everyone feared. Now, the neighbors pitied her. Later that week, the HOA board called an emergency meeting at the community hall. Everyone came, some out of curiosity, some out of judgment. I was invited to speak about emergency access procedures. Karen was there too, sitting quietly in the front row, her posture smaller, her confidence gone. The meeting started with the HOA president trying to clarify misunderstandings. But before he could finish, an elderly man in the back raised his voice. "You people care more about hedge height than human life. That truck couldn't get through because of our own rules." Murmurs filled the hall. The carefully maintained civility of Maplewood cracked open. Karen stood up. Her voice, though shaky, carried through the room. "He's right," she said. "This is my fault. I was the one who stopped the fire truck. I thought I was protecting the neighborhood's image, but I nearly destroyed it instead." Gasps. Whispers. A few people looked away uncomfortably. She continued, tears in her eyes. "You all trusted me to enforce order. But I forgot that rules are meant to serve people, not control them. And if it takes losing everything to remember that, then I deserve what happened." For the first time since I'd met her, I felt something close to respect. The board voted to revise the HOA bylaws that night. Emergency access became the new top priority. Roads were widened, street parking was limited, and the neighborhood started to feel, ironically, more human. But for Karen, things didn't magically go back to normal. Her house was gone, her reputation shredded online, and whispers followed her at every turn. Still, I noticed something different. She didn't hide. She volunteered at the local shelter, helped with fire safety events, and even joined our department's community outreach committee. Sometimes, redemption doesn't arrive in grand gestures, it grows quietly from guilt and humility. One afternoon, a few weeks later, I saw her at a children's fire safety demo we hosted. She was handing out helmets to kids, smiling gently. A young mother thanked her for her work, clearly unaware of who she used to be. Karen caught my eye across the crowd and nodded, a silent acknowledgement of what had changed between us. And for the first time since that day, I nodded back. The weeks following the fire turned into months. The ashes of Karen Wallace's house had long been cleared, replaced by an empty lot with a single wooden sign that read "Future Site of Hope." It wasn't a construction notice, it was Karen's idea. She wanted to build something meaningful where her house once stood. Not another mansion, but a community garden. Most people in Maplewood thought she was crazy at first. "That woman's just trying to buy forgiveness," they said. "No one changes that fast." But I'd seen the change firsthand. Karen came by the fire station every week, sometimes with snacks, sometimes just to talk. She'd ask questions about fire safety, about how neighborhoods could prepare for emergencies, about what she could do differently next time. There was humility in her now, a quiet kind that doesn't beg for attention, only for understanding. One afternoon, I found her sitting by the burnt lot, sketching plans on a clipboard. The sun was setting, washing the sky in orange and gold. I approached cautiously. "Still determined to grow something here?" I asked. She smiled faintly. "It's funny. I used to think a perfect lawn meant success. Now I just want to see something alive again." I nodded, watching her draw little rectangles and paths on paper. "You've got guts, Karen. Most people would have left town." She chuckled softly. "I thought about it. But running away doesn't change what I did. Facing people every day, the ones who glare, whisper, or record me, that's harder. But maybe it's what I deserve." I could hear the weight in her words. Guilt is a heavy thing. It doesn't vanish, it transforms you, reshapes you until you either break or rebuild. As weeks passed, the future site of hope started to take shape. Volunteers joined in, first a few kids, then parents, then even some of the HOA members who had once stood by her rules. They dug soil, planted flowers, and built benches. I visited every now and then, bringing the station crew to help with hauling supplies. One Saturday morning, a local reporter came by, asking to film the story. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Karen had become newsworthy again, but this time, not as HOA Karen. The headline read, "From Fire to Forgiveness, the Woman Who Rebuilt a Neighborhood." That piece changed everything. Neighbors who once crossed the street to avoid her now stopped to say hello. Kids played around the garden, families brought picnics, and people actually talked to each other again. Maplewood Estates, once ruled by silent resentment and HOA warnings, finally felt like a real community. But redemption isn't a straight road, it's full of reminders. One evening, Karen attended a town safety seminar where I was speaking. Afterward, an old neighbor, Mrs. Carver, approached her. "Karen," she said, voice cold, "my son could have died that day because you blocked the truck. Don't expect everyone to forgive so easily." Karen didn't argue. She didn't cry or walk away. She simply nodded. "You're right. I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope my actions now mean something." It was one of those rare moments where silence carried more power than any apology. After the seminar, she sat alone on the bench outside the hall, staring at the reflection of the fire truck parked nearby. I joined her, sitting quietly beside her. "You know," I said, You can't control what people think. But you can control what you do next. She turned to me, her eyes tired but resolute. That's all I've been trying to do, Jake. Every day, I wake up and ask, how do I fix something that can't be undone? I thought about that for a moment. Maybe you don't fix it. Maybe you grow from it. Just like that garden. For the first time, she smiled, a real, unguarded smile. The garden was officially opened 3 months later. A small crowd gathered around, cameras flashing, children laughing. The mayor gave a brief speech about community resilience, but it was Karen's turn at the microphone that silenced everyone. I used to think control meant safety, she began. That rules and appearances could protect us from chaos. But fire taught me something different. You can build fences around your home, but not around fate. And when it comes, the only thing that matters is how you face it. Her voice wavered slightly, but she continued, this garden stands where my house once did. It's not just soil and plants, it's proof that from ashes, something living can grow again. The crowd clapped. Some cheered. A few cried. And for the first time, no one called her Karen. When the ceremony ended, I walked up to her, holding a small red firefighter patch. For you, I said. Not an official badge, but a reminder. You helped save more lives than you realize. She took it carefully, eyes glistening. You think so? I know so. You showed people what happens when pride burns, and what can rise from it. She pinned the patch to her shirt, smiling softly. Guess that's my kind of karma. That night, as I drove past Maplewood Estates, I saw the lights of the garden twinkling under the stars. It wasn't just a garden anymore, it was a symbol. And deep down, I realized something too. Karma isn't punishment. It's education, the universe's harshest, yet most effective teacher. A year had passed since that morning when flames devoured Karen's house and her pride with it. Maplewood Estates had changed, subtly but profoundly. The lawns still gleamed green, the houses still looked perfect, but the people were different now. They talked, helped, and smiled in ways they hadn't before. It wasn't a community ruled by fear anymore, it was one held together by shared humanity. The Hope Garden had become the heart of the neighborhood. Every weekend, families came to water plants, teenagers painted rocks with uplifting quotes, and children released butterflies during the spring bloom. It was alive in every sense, a living reminder that tragedy could birth beauty. Karen was there almost every day, tending the flowers with gloves and a sun hat, her old perfectionism now replaced with quiet care. She didn't bark orders anymore, she listened, laughed, and let things grow wild sometimes. That was new for her, accepting imperfection. One warm evening, I stopped by after my shift, still in uniform. The sun was sinking low, and the golden light made the petals glow like fire. Karen was kneeling near the center, planting marigolds. She looked up when she saw me and smiled. Hey, hero, she said teasingly. You here to inspect my fire safety protocols again? I chuckled. Just making sure you haven't started any new infernos. She laughed, a full, genuine laugh. It was strange how time had transformed her voice. It used to carry sharp edges, every word a command. Now it sounded softer, warmer, like forgiveness had smoothed her rough corners. I knelt beside her, helping her plant. You ever think about moving back into a house? She pressed the soil down gently. I don't need one. I lost my walls, Jake, but I found my peace. She glanced around. This place, these people, it's home enough. For a while, we worked in silence, listening to the wind rustle through the leaves. Then she asked quietly, do you still think about that day? All the time, I admitted. It reminded me how fast things can change. How a single decision, yours, mine, can rewrite everything. She nodded. Karma's funny like that. Everyone thinks it's revenge. But really, it's a mirror. It just shows you what you've been hiding from. Her words hit deep. I'd seen enough fires to know she was right. Karma isn't flames from outside. It's the spark we carry within us, waiting to ignite truth. The firefighter's lesson. A few weeks later, I was invited to give a talk at the city's fire safety awareness event. I spoke about preparedness, sure, but when it came time to talk about awareness, I found myself telling Karen's story. Not as gossip, not as mockery, as a lesson. Sometimes, I said to the audience, the biggest fires aren't in houses, they're in hearts. Pride, ego, fear, they burn hotter than gasoline. And when they finally catch, the only thing that can put them out is humility. When I finished, the room was silent. Then the crowd stood, applauding, not for me, but for the truth of it. And somewhere in the back row, I saw Karen, clapping quietly, tears shining in her eyes. The day it rained. Months later, on an early autumn morning, the rain came, the first real storm since the fire a year ago. Thunder rumbled, and the garden shimmered under silver drops. I stopped by to check that everything was holding up, only to find Karen already there, soaked to the bone, laughing like a child. "You'll catch a cold," I shouted over the rain. She twirled slowly, arms open, eyes to the sky. "Let it come. The fire took everything from me, but the rain gives it all back." She looked free. Not just forgiven, reborn. As we stood there, the rain washed over the flowers, the stones, the soil, washing away the last traces of smoke from the past. For the first time since the fire, I realized the smell of ash was gone. All that remained was the scent of wet earth and life. The new beginning. By winter, the community installed a small bronze plaque at the garden entrance. It read, "From ashes we grow. In kindness we rebuild." Dedicated to Karen Wallace and the firefighters of Station 47. When she saw it, Karen cried. Not loud sobs, but quiet tears, the kind that heal. She turned to me and said, "I used to think I was cursed that day. But now I see, it was a second chance." I smiled. "You earned it, Karen. That's the thing about karma, it doesn't just punish. It gives you the tools to rebuild." She tilted her head, smiling softly. "Guess we both learned something from that fire." I nodded. "Yeah. Fires don't just destroy, they reveal what's worth saving." Epilogue: The flame that changed everything. Another year later, the Hope Garden was in full bloom. Roses climbed the fences, sunflowers reached toward the sky, and the marigolds she'd planted that first day glowed bright as embers. Children ran through the paths, laughing. Life had come full circle. Karen wasn't HOA Karen anymore. She was simply Karen Wallace, the woman who turned tragedy into hope. She still carried scars, emotional ones, but they didn't define her, they reminded her. As for me, every time I drove past Maplewood, I slowed down, not because of traffic, but because that place had become a symbol. A reminder that even the worst fires can illuminate the way forward. The world would keep calling it karma. But to me, it was something deeper. It was redemption in flames, and the proof that sometimes, the only way to rebuild is to burn away who you were.